Are interest rates on a historic brink? Well, I'm going to take you through some differences that we're seeing with variable rate interest mortgages and fixed rate mortgages, and a couple of fun facts that you may not be aware of. So hi, my name's Deirdre Dunn. I'm a real estate broker here in the Wellington and Waterloo regions of Ontario, and I help empty nesters downsize, help reduce the stress, overwhelm, anxiety using my 5-step method. I call it your next chapter. And so if you find this information useful and interesting, I really ask that you press the like button and subscribe button so that more people like you can see videos like this. So let's begin. So we've just recently had a Bank of Canada interest rate decline of a 1/4 point. That has been the 3rd consecutive one this year. So we had June, July, and now September. And that equals a 0.75% rate decrease for variable rate mortgages, which now puts them in line about 5.45 to about 6%. So, and bank economists for the rest of 2024 and 2025 are reevaluating things and are seeing that it is highly likely that the Bank of Canada will take further rate cuts, particularly for the next 2 meetings that they have, which is October and December 11th. And the last time the Bank of Canada saw this many rate cuts of 5 or more consecutive rate cuts was back in the US financial crisis of 08 and 09. And at that time, the Bank of Canada took actually 8 consecutive decreases in interest rates, starting in October of 08 and ending in September of 09. So here's the fun facts that I mentioned. For the last 40 years, if you tracked variable rate mortgages and fixed rate mortgages, you would have found that variable rate mortgages are typically lower than fixed rate. And so they're obviously the more popular choice. However, in the last 22 years, there's only been 4 times that fixed rate mortgages have actually been lower than variable rate mortgages. And 2 of those times has been in 2023 and 2024. So why don't we look at a scenario, because here's what your choice is going to be. Do I go variable or do I go a fixed rate mortgage? Well, so I said fixed rate mortgages are ranging between 5.75 to 6%. So let's use the 5.75 variable rate versus a 3-year fixed, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 4.49%. So if you consider the scenario that Bank of Canada is going to take further rate cuts, and it could potentially be about 1.5 to 2% more in decline, then that variable rate at 5.75 would actually come down to, in about a year's time, 4.25, which is less than the 4.49. And the other benefit at that time is you can lock in with not having to qualify, not having to give income, credit scores, nothing like that, into a fixed rate mortgage from your lender for 5 years. And we know that as variable rate mortgages come down, so too will fixed rate mortgages. And they're expected to land in the next little while, maybe around 3.69 to 3.99, so just under 4%. So you could ride the variable rate mortgage right now, which is higher than the fixed rate, anticipating that it's going to come down, and then next year lock into a 5-year rate, which would take you to 2030, versus locking in today with a 3-year fixed rate at 4.49 and then having to see where the market's at, mortgage rate market is at in 2027. So it depends on what your objectives are. If your objectives are to move in the next little while, variable rate mortgage might be a really better option for you, because know this, that with variable rate mortgages, if you're going, they're open, so you only have to pay 3 months interest if you're going to close those out. But if you have a fixed rate mortgage, it's one of 2 options that you're facing: either the 3 months interest or what's called the interest differential, which is the posted rate versus what you're paying, and you're going to pay that interest difference for 3 months. So, and whichever one of those is higher, that's your penalty for breaking a fixed mortgage. So it might be in your best interest because you know what the 3 months interest is on a variable versus trying to guess what that interest differential is going to be sometime in the future. So it all depends, but it's an interesting and historic times that we're in terms of the number of interest rate declines that are happening, as well as the level of interest rates that we're going to land at. And by the way, here's another piece of advice. We're not going to see those 2.5, 2.75, 3% interest rates. Those days are long gone, unfortunately. So, but for those who have had the pleasure of having those rates, you had historically low interest rates at that time. So if you found this information helpful, I ask that you press the like and subscribe button so that more people like you can see this. See you in the next video.